So, horrible political commentator Chris Mathews of MSNBC fame, infamy, if you want to call it that, was commenting on Bernie Sanders yesterday, MSNBC's post debate coverage, and he just totally goes off a cliff with this analysis of Bernie Sanders and what the fuck is he thinking? Basically, let's watch and listen. It's just disturbing, but also like kind of funny.
I have an attitude about them. I remember the Cold War. I have an attitude towards Castro. I believe if Castro and the Reds had won the Cold War, there would have been executions in Central Park, and I might have been one of the ones getting executed. And certain other people would be there cheering, okay? So I have a problem with people who took the other side. I don't know who Bernie
What the fuck are you talking about, man? You're saying that if the Reds had won, that Bernie Sanders would be in the street calling for people to be executed in New York? Did you say Central Park or New York? Hold on, let me play that one more time.
George Castro. I believe if Castro and the Reds had won the Cold War, there would have been executions in Central Park, and I might have been one of the ones getting...
What the fuck are you talking about, Castro? All he was trying to do was protect his country from the U.S. trying to invade and overthrow him, as they tried to do multiple times. And going back to the fact, trying to paint Bernie Sanders as some violent extremist who would be in the streets cheering or advocating for people to be executed, just ridiculous on its face. Bernie Sanders has been an advocate of non-violent forms of resistance and non-violent forms of direct action and protest his whole life. He, as opposed to Joe Biden, who lied about his role at being involved in the civil rights movement, Bernie Sanders was out there marching, protesting peacefully for racial and social and economic justice, and he's been just clear and consistent through the decades. He's never advocated violence, and if you look at his voting record and things he supports now, he is the least violent or militaristic candidate out of all the Democrats, and definitely compared to Trump, he was the only one during the debate last night who was basically vociferously fighting against these unwarranted extrajudicial assassinations, these war crimes, vis-a-vis the assassination of Soleimani. So it's just these people on mainstream media, they just have freaking cat food for brains when it comes to Bernie Sanders, and they just make up these just completely ridiculous claims that have no basis in reality, aren't backed up by any type of fact or concrete evidence. It's just they try to concoct these just completely ridiculous stories and narratives about Bernie Sanders to try to paint him as somebody who would be advocating for people being executed in New York Central Park. What the fuck are you talking about, Chris Mathews? How are you still on the air, for Christ's sakes? I mean, there's like 4th and 5th graders who would be providing much better political analysis and commentary than this frickin' nut job. Christ.
Executed. And certain other people would be there cheering, okay? So I have a problem with people who took the other side. I don't know who Bernie supports over these years.
What the fuck are you talking about? He identifies as a democratic socialist, basically 21st century FDR. He wants to make the economy, make the U.S. society work for the average working person, not the billionaire owner class. What's so hard for Chris Mathews to understand about that? Oh, that's right, he is a multimillionaire himself, and if he starts, calling out those corporate interests that back and support MSNBC, then he wouldn't have a job much longer. So no wonder he's able to spew this just complete BS about Bernie.
I don't know what he means by social. 1 week it's Denmark.
Yep, he's been very fucking clear and consistent. He identifies as a democratic socialist. He wants the economy and the society to benefit working people, not the big corporations and the billionaire owner class. It's not that hard to understand, Chris Mathews. And maybe if you're not able to understand that, maybe you shouldn't be giving your opinions on this on this national stage. If you're not able to, understand these very simple concepts. And Bernie's been very clear and consistent on his political ideology and stance. Christ.
Like Denmark. Okay, that's harmless. That's basically a capitalist country with a lot of good social welfare programs. Denmark is harmless.
And then it seems like he's trying to make fun of the way that Bernie Sanders talks by trying to imitate, I don't know, Bernie's accent or something, or way of talking. So it's like, Jesus Christ, man.
Really in the Denmark. It's the allegory, yeah. Are you sure? How do you know the details?
That's what he always says. He wants to catch the U.S. up to the rest of the industrialized world and institute things like Medicare for all, so 30 to 45,000 people aren't dying each year. We spend more on healthcare than any other country. We spend about twice as much, actually. The average from developed industrialized countries, they spend around $5,000. The United States spends over $10,000 a year, and we have horrible health outcomes. We don't insure everybody. People die. People go bankrupt. Bernie's trying to again make the United States a little bit more fair for the working people. It's like not that hard to understand, but again, you're not exactly a working person, Chris Mathews, and it's clear that your brain also is not working right now, and I think it's been on vacation for quite some time along with your critical thinking skills.
Well, I mean, that's what he says, and that's what his agenda calls for, right?
At least they have Chris Hayes there pushing back a little bit on Chris Mathews' just exact fucking bullshit, trying to say that Bernie Sanders is going to be advocating or cheering on people getting executed had the so-called Reds won. Oh my God, it's ridiculous on its face. Bernie Sanders seems to be a very non-violent person to his core, and it just does not make sense.
Let's see. We haven't seen a campaign yet. I haven't added to the.
So Jesus Christ, man, it's like what the fuck? I mean, this is why I don't watch mainstream media, don't consume it. Like the last time I did was the debate. The time before that, it was the debate previously, and I only catch these, short clips on social media and kind of critique and comment about it because it needs to be pointed out sometimes how just ridiculous of a take the mainstream media neoliberal centrist hacks take against Bernie Sanders because they see him as a threat to their class interest and the class interest of the MSNBCs, the Fox News, and the CNNs of the world. And so again, just very, very telling that they're not able to criticize Bernie Sanders at all for his policy or his record throughout the years. Chris Mathews has to concoct this cockamamie scheme about how if the Reds had won, then Bernie Sanders would be in New York City's Central Park advocating for people to be executed, even though he's clear track record of advocating for nonviolent protest, nonviolent direct action. He's never called for any of that type of stuff. So it does not make sense. Chris Mathews, you should be fired. You should retire. It's clear that you got cat food for brains, and you're just not a good look. Just please go away. Nobody wants to hear your bullshit, unsubstantiated, completely baseless attacks and claims against Bernie Sanders. Go away. Bernie 2020, not me, us. Peace.